Hello, everybody. It's Modern Investing on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Star, and today's guests are Dr. Milan Sombarak. Welcome to the show, Milan.
Delighted to be here, Sasha. Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. And Jim Eat from Eat Foundation. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you, Sasha. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. And today is Wednesday, supposedly the best day of the week. But if the week is lousy, then even Wednesday cannot do much about it. Although we have some greens here and there. Yesterday, AMD reported, and it wasn't bad report, but it wasn't as good as
Some red, some green.
or some greens, of course. So stock tanked. Actually, yesterday, interestingly, when the report was announced, the stock went up a few points. Then it immediately reversed and started going down. And from that point, it was going all the way down. It jumped a little bit 9 o'clock when the CEO of AMD had a few words, and she was quite optimistic about the company or so on. But it didn't help. The stock reversed down shortly after she finished. And now it's sitting there. Now, to mitigate this situation, I sold, I think it was, let me see for sure, I think it was this November, actually. Just a moment, where is it? I sold, here we go. It's November 21st, 165 calls. I got $16.85 for each call. So that means that if stock will be 165 or higher, I will deliver stock at 165. But collecting 16.85, it means that I will be in a handsome plus territory. But we'll see. Maybe I will buy them back at some point, but maybe just let it expire.
Would you like to do better, Sasha?
Sorry?
Would you like to do better?
Better than that?
Yeah.
Well, if somebody would pay me instead of 16.85, 16.95, what else?
I tell you how you can do better.
How you can do better?
The highest percentage return on covered calls is when the expiry date is the closest to when you enter the sale. So
Wonderful. The only thing is, I'll tell you right away why I'm in the stocks right now. So if you take AMD, where it is right now, okay, and you will sell, supposedly, hold on, it's not clicking. I'm trying to figure out what you will get for 165 calls. Expiring when? This Friday, next Friday? What would you like to know?
He wants to do it today.
Same day. And also, not on an individual.
Wait. AMD doesn't have same days calls, but we can take Friday.
First of all, we recommend that people stay away from individual stocks in the first place, let alone those that don't have same day expiry dates, and buy the market as a whole, such as represented by an exchange-traded fund which tracks the S&P 500, and there are about half a dozen of those, but SPY happens to be the best, and so that's very easy to enter a sale first thing in the morning, expiry at the end of the same day. In a declining market, in a rising market, that doesn't work. You're better off holding the security itself, holding SPY itself. Anyway, I'm interrupting what you really wanted to say, so I have a few other things I want to say. I'll wait until you finish what you need to say. Go ahead.
I see. Okay. All I need to say is a very simple thing, that today, 100 and hold on. So I want to take same calls that I sold, 165, and see what I can get. So 165 call on AMD is expiring this Friday because that's a closed expiration. That's what you are suggesting. So I can get $2.81. Sorry, $1.78 now. Okay, so that's what I can get. And in the meantime, I got $16.85, and I don't have to worry about that for the next almost 3 months. And the money is already on my account. So can you compare $1.78 and 16.85? I'm puzzled. I can't. See, the problem is if you could sell for the same price, the same security, the same calls over and over every week, then it would be great. But we know that it's not going to happen because if the stock move lower, then your premium will be next week lower than this. If the stock moves higher, then there is a problem whether you should sell this call at all. Okay, maybe you should. Okay, so you're collecting another dollar.
If your security moves higher, you're better off holding the security than writing cover.
Exactly. So you have now a dilemma whether to sell, collect another $1.80, or not to sell at all, or you will collect if the stock will move lower, you will not collect even $1.78. You will collect.
No dilemma at all the way we do things, but carry on with your way, and then after James says a few things, I'll show you how to do it. No dilemma.
My way is to collect money. Now, all other ways, I don't know what you're talking about.
All investors want to make more.
It's a big difference to want to make money and to actually make money. You see, because my strategy allowed me to collect 520% in slightly over 2 years' time. Okay, all other methods and whatever people are trying to do, I never met anybody who came even close to these numbers. There are perhaps, maybe market wizards will be laughing at what I've done and they say, what, 520%? We collected 10,000 and 520%. That's possible. And I admire people who will do that much and so much better, except that I haven't met them yet.
Well, Sasha, is it true that the higher you get, and you're getting some extremely high returns here, the greater the risk you need to take? That generally is true, isn't it?
No, it's not. Because by selling puts and calls, you are selling time. So here comes an investor and say, I want to buy some time. Okay, how much are you prepared to pay? Well, I'm prepared to pay, say, $20,000. Okay, you got my attention. Here is your time. Here is my $20,000. Next. So what's the risk involved here? Think about it.
High risk and high reward have been interconnected since time began, and you have found an exception to that basic rule, have you?
I can agree with you, and to tell the truth, I'm not using any mathematical formula, and I'm not counting this premises. What you're saying that the lesser time until expiration, the more percentages you make. But I'm not in the percentages. I'm in the real money. To me, $20,000 means something regardless of what percentage it is. Probably it's inferior. If I would sell weekly call, I could get more percentages, but here we are talking about $1.78, and there we are talking about $16.85. If translated into real dollars, we are talking in first case $178. And in the next case, we are talking about $1,685. Feels the difference.
Doesn't the higher percentage return on investment means more money?
No, it's not. Because what's happened is...
Where I come from, but okay, go ahead.
Okay, let me explain to you something. When you're selling covered call or put, you're selling essentially a time. And when you're selling 2 days' time, you're getting some kind of money, but it's negligent compared to what if you're selling about 3 months' time. So you're grabbing much more money. And I don't care about percentages. I care about money coming to my account. That's all I care. Jim, what do you think about this? Oh, Jim is frozen. Bill, listen, whatever makes you happy and make you money, just keep doing that. It
Of
doesn't matter you get
course.
6% or 8%. Doesn't matter as long as you're happy and as long as you're not losing money.
That'll be true. That'll be true. You know, Sasha, what we all want to do is we want to predict the future. And bellwether stocks are a way of predicting the future. I don't know how good they are. For example, Procter and Gamble might be a good bellwether stock for pharmaceuticals, and Apple is a good bellwether stock for high tech things. But a very reliable way of predicting the future near term, that's what we are looking for, is to see what the S&P 500 futures are showing. And you can take a look first thing in the morning what the S&P 500 futures are showing for that particular day, which then will guide how you invest. So if the market is rising, you just stay put. And if the market is declining, you sell covered calls first thing in the morning, expiring at the end of the same day, and strike price just out of the money. And so that is safe because you're dealing with the SPY, which represents the American economy as a whole. And I've been doing that for a long time, decades now. First thing in the morning, I'm retired, but when I was in practice, I had set aside a 15 minutes aside in my appointment book to sell covered calls if the market was declining, and not to do anything if the market was rising, and to own the market as a whole rather than individual stocks. So we follow, there's rules-based investing and judgment-based investing. And we have 6 rules that we talk about. And the first one is save. Without saving, the other 5 don't count. Number 2 is do it yourself. Number 3 is buy the American economy as a whole, the best performing economy for the last 200 years. No picking individual stocks, economy as a whole. Number 4 is you have an asset allocation of 50-50. You adjust, number 3, to rebalance any time that market movement throws off your 50-50 asset allocation. And then the last one is if you cannot explain an investment to a 10-year-old, don't get into it. Simplicity. So those are all rules. Judgment is, am I going to buy this stock or am I going to sell this stock? That's judgment. If you decide to buy it, you're buying it from a seller. You could be buying it from a market maker, but never mind that many people don't know what a market maker is. But you're buying it from somebody who's selling it. Could both of you be right? If the stock goes up, the buyer is right, the seller is wrong. If the stock goes down, the buyer is wrong, the seller is right. So would you get into a car knowing that there's a 50% chance of an accident? That's what you're doing when you're buying a stock or selling a stock. So buying the American.
Based on your information, you cannot allow yourself to buy anything because regardless what you're buying it from somebody else who is selling. So then you should just forget about the market and do something else.
Well, there are ways of making money other than the market. The market is a great way to make money, one of the best, for I think 5 reasons. One is it's a great investment. Much of the time can be a great investment. Number 2 is the constantly quoted prices. You don't need an evaluator. Constantly quoted prices, that's valuable. And number 3, the transaction costs are so low you can ignore them. And number 4 is that the record keeping is incredible. You can good enough for the government. So that's the reason why we should be in the market. Yeah, you can do very well by not being in the market. For example, in real estate, a lot of people make money in real estate. But Case-Shiller shows the real estate prices of 20 cities in the United States. When you can compare those to holding the SPY, doesn't do nearly as well. SPY does much better. Plus, the liquidity is lacking. I have an investment property in Collingwood that I'm trying to sell now. And when I take a look at how long it takes to sell, and when I take a look at the transaction costs and compare that to the same amount of money in the market, you can buy and sell for $10 or less. Some Wall Street banks don't charge at all for transactions. and it takes place instantly. So, huge advantage in being in the market. So, picking individual stocks, yeah, you say, well, that's always the case that one is right, one is wrong. If you own SPY, you're buying it from somebody who is selling it. That somebody is selling it to buy groceries and pay the rent.
Really? So if you don't need groceries, you don't sell S&P 500?
Well, you got to do something to that. So you do that because we own nothing but SPY. I also happen to own some BRK, Berkshire Hathaway. It's done very well. Berkshire Hathaway has, Warren Buffett has done close to double the American market for 60 years. That's unmatched. And he's not a market wizard, yeah. Neither is James Simons, who should be in there. Neither is David Swenson, who should be in there.
You have to write their own books. And this way, call that book a new or old market wizards and put all those people there, but nobody will pay even $3 for this book.
Well, you're all looking for an easy way to make a buck, but I keep saying, sooner you find an easy way to make a buck, call me, and I promise to do the same for you.
But tell me, I would like to know, Milan, have you ever seen what's done S&P 500 in the last, say, 3 years, 5 years? I don't care. And what at the same time NVIDIA did in percentage?
Well, you know what? NVIDIA is inside the S&P 500. So, yeah, you can select individual stocks that have done better than the S&P 500 within that S&P 500. But, you know, that takes time. And a lot of people don't have the time, particularly if they're still working and not retired. And so the time that it takes to buy and hold SPY is close to zero. I tell you, 5 minutes a day is all it takes me to make a decent living selling covered calls if the market is declining and holding the market SPY if it's rising. And how can I tell that? Well, by looking at S&P 500 futures, that's a reasonably accurate way of predicting the short-term future. So,
Milan, have you ever seen what's happened with the market when the futures are up, the market opens up? Very often in the last few, I say at least 2 weeks, what I saw happening is that in midday, market turns around and starts selling, vicious selling. What that tells me, it means that by this high futures in the morning, the retail investors are being sucked into the market to buy. Oh, this stock is going up, market is going up. Then it reverses and falling almost like a knife. And all these investors are losing money. And why? Because institutions are using this artificially high prices in the morning, and they dump the incredible number of shares into the market, into this innocent, say.
you know, Sasha, you're right when it comes to institutions. Are not our friend. The investment banks are not our friends. You know, they spend all their meetings discussing how to make more money from us, whom they call Muppets. We are Muppets. And so these guys who are making incredible amounts of money, you know, Jamie Dimon makes in a day what a dentist would make in 5 years. So he can justify that. I don't know. So Muppets, they spend their entire meeting discussing how to get more money out of you and me, Muppets, without spending a single minute showing us how we could make more money. They're not our friend. They're not our friend.
If you hold, instead of S&P 500, 500 shares of NVIDIA, and I don't think that all their meetings will be productive to figure out how to make money on you. I don't think it will not happening. Actually, NVIDIA right now, it's at the crossroads. It's reached now a new plateau, $180 a share or so. It's a consolidating there, and I think next move will be, and now I'm pretty much convinced, although I said it before, during this year, it will definitely reach 200. So right now it's in consolidation stage. I figured out that the bottom line support is, I'd say, 165 now, maybe 170, but I take a worst case scenario, it's 165, and your upside is, just name it, 190, 200, 210. Nobody knows what's on upside
We,
there.
you know, we advise against picking individual stocks because very often you're wrong doing that. And so owning NVIDIA by owning the S&P 500 is good enough for us. Now, is the American economy the largest in the world? Right?
No, okay, arguably, yes. Okay.
And you could argue successfully that it's been one of the strongest economies, if not the strongest economy in the world for a very long time. Now, if you walk down the main street of America in any community, most of the shops and stores on that street are losers, except for the banks and some professionals, like, let's say, physicians and accountants and medical doctors and dentists and so on. The mom and pop clothing stores are losers. The restaurants tend to be losers. The gift shops tend to be losers. Most of them are losers. In spite of all that, America has the strongest economy ever. If you
Because of the physicians and dentists?
dentists and physicians do all right. Not nearly as
How many dentists and physicians are in the United States, do you think?
well. I can tell you for Canada, there are about 20 to 25,000 dentists.
Okay, so it's 250,000, give or take, in the United States, right? What,
Yeah,
what,
should be
what
about that.
percentage of population is that?
Oh, it's a small percentage of the population. Yeah,
Oh, it's a fraction of 1%, right?
right. Yeah.
What's happening with 99.99%?
Well, the Muppets, what they're doing, the exact opposite of what they should be doing. If you have,
They should have go to dentistry school. That's what they were supposed to do.
well, you're right about that. You're right about that, Sasha. Except they turn away dental schools in North America. Turn away about 14 out of 15 applicants, all of whom are qualified. To get into dental school today, you need to have a general science degree. It takes about 4 years. Qualified people are being turned away they accept about 1 out of 15 applicants. So once you become a dentist, you're okay. But like I said earlier, as soon as you find an easy way to make a buck, call me and I'll do the same for you. So being a dentist is a reasonably easy way to make a buck, but becoming a dentist is not so easy. So
Okay, so those who cannot become, for various reasons, dentists, so they are going to run stores which are losing money, or working in groceries or in somewhere. Regardless where they're working, they're going to lose money. You know all that. So what's your solution to that?
people don't save, and they should save. There was a survey done of a large number of people, a statistically meaningful survey about what would you do differently if you had life to live over again. And most of them, including me, said that I would have started saving earlier. How much we save depends on three factors. Number one is how much money we put aside. Of course, that makes sense. Number two is the interest rate that that money earns. And number three, the length of time that that is cooking. And all other things being equal, the length of time is the most important of all. So now, who could not live on 5% less of what they're making now? Everybody could live on 5% less. So I suggest to people, whatever you're making money, take 5% of it. 10 is better, but take off 5% and set it aside as soon as you can so that it has that time working for it, because time is the most important and the more critical aspect of getting savings to be effective. Time.
Well, no, 5%, 10%. Okay. You know, story about one businessman, a millionaire, and he was asked, how you became so successful? What have you done in your life? He said, well, I bought 2 apples for 10 cents each, and I cleaned them and cut them in pieces and sold them for 20 cents each. So then I bought 2 apples and I did the same thing, and I cut them and cleaned them and so on and sold for 20 cents times 2, 40 cents now. Oh, wonderful. So how you became a billionaire by doing all that. He said, well, my uncle Bill, when he passed away, he gave me a fortune of $1 million.
Hmm.
And then I started really to perform.
John,
So,
John Paul Getty's success recipe. The way to become wealthy is rise early, work hard, strike oil.
Yeah.
well, Jim, what's your experience? How does it all work?
I do think that saving early and often is a good recipe. That's how I got started in able to buy real estate in the Bay Area. The couple of things I wanted to focus on, I have a little bit of middle ground here, in that I'm not selecting a stock in particular, but a sector. And I believe that the semiconductor, especially those companies that are producing semiconductors aimed at artificial intelligence and supporting that. NVIDIA is one of the prime ones that and we've talked about NVIDIA a lot. And I've also been mentioning Marvel, MRVL is the ticker tape.
Yes, very
I have
good.
my eye on another one called LSCC. And I've been monitoring it for a while. It had good, really robust revenue. The earnings have been good. And so I almost bought, but I didn't pull the trigger. I've just been looking at it. It's up 21% in the last 3 months. And it just got a little bit of a boost in August. So I didn't pull the trigger. And so now I'm kind of thinking, did I miss my opportunity? And I don't think so. I think I might dive in and buy, probably not a lot, not as much as NVIDIA I have. And also I noticed that AMD, which, it's up 65% in the last 3 months.
Yeah.
The last
Maybe
few
around
days have been bad, but I have a lot of that stock too, probably too much of that. And Intel has been hurting lately, but these semiconductor stocks, I think, are going to withstand whatever Trump does to the economy. And the numbers are starting to come in. And we had a report of the job growth is lagging, and Trump's response was to fire the messenger. And so he didn't like the data. And it's if the number is good, Trump thinks it's a solid number. If the number is bad, then he thinks it's rigged. And so he fires whoever reports the numbers. But the numbers have been bad because of the tariffs, primarily because of the tariffs that he's been toying around with. And he just increased the tariffs to India to 50%. And because the United States is a net importer rather than an exporter, some of the consequences of these tariffs are not as apparent as soon as if we were a net exporter. But the people that are doing the exports are getting hit, and companies have to either eat the tariffs or pass them on to the customers. So they're going to either hurt profitability or be inflationary, and or both. And so this is going to affect companies' profitability in general. And I've noticed that the market has been reacting to earnings in ways that they haven't really been reacting to them in the short-term past. They've started to change in the earnings announcements, even if they're good. If they're not good enough, I think that's happened to AMD, for example.
Yes, correct.
If they don't exceed expectations by a certain amount, then the stock gets punished. And that's going to be we're going to be in for some rocky numbers, but in the semiconductor industry that's concentrated on artificial intelligence, the revenue numbers have been so robust that they keep growing, and they keep and these companies have poised for market share gains, which means that revenues are going to increase. And so I'm looking at companies that revenues are already strong and getting stronger, and nothing in the future. They seem to be immune to the tariff nonsense that Trump has administered. But the numbers are starting to show that it's going to impact the overall economy. The overall market is going to take a beating because of these tariffs. and companies are going to be less profitable, and people are going to pay more as consumers,
Will,
or
will,
have less choice in what they can buy.
will the overall market take a beating because it's unreasonably high now?
Well, that's a matter of discussion, but it's independent of what I was talking about. Yeah, the market can be considered to be overpriced, but I think you have to look at where people are talking about, what part of the market is overpriced and what part is growing.
Yeah.
And if it's growing, then I don't consider it overpriced, even though, like, for example, NVIDIA is continued to grow at kind of a staggering rate. It's up almost 60% in the last 3 months. But it's been overpriced the entire time. So what can we say about people who say it's overpriced?
Based on fundamentals, it's been overpriced, right?
Well, based on a traditional way of looking at these, which is not taking into account future revenue growth, but is talking about the current revenue versus the current price. And by that standard, it's overpriced. But if you factor in future revenues, then you see that the growth opportunity is going to make that short-term analysis look silly, because you're going to be on the sidelines while the stock continues to rise.
To what extent is future revenue an estimation?
Oh, it's always an estimation, but what you do is based on experience and based on your knowledge of the industry, based on the knowledge of the company that you're investing in. Do you think that the probability of the expectation is significantly high enough? And when you get a PhD, it's 95% confidence. So do you have something approaching 95% confidence that the revenue growth is continuing to grow? With these types of stocks that I'm talking about, my confidence level is probably not 95%, but it's pretty close.
We don't have that problem, James, because we don't look at individual companies. We look at the market as a whole. It's a very simple thing to do.
And I agree. And if you're interested in doing that, or if you're not really interested in investing and want to do something that's fairly risk-free and reasonable chance for growth, the strategy that you've outlined is excellent. And I do think that if you want to track stocks, if you want to look at companies, and if you want to pay attention, and you have a little bit of talent, then you can make considerably more.
Well, it takes a lot of time too, though. If you like what you're doing, it isn't really work. You should be doing it.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time. What we recommend is very successful. Investing in puts and calls on SPY has generated an annual return of 18% for nearly 200 years.
I've got nothing bad to say about your approach, Milan. It's an excellent one. What I'm saying, it really doesn't take that much time. It takes the amount of time that I would normally put into tracking what's going on in the country. So it's no ad to put that into investing. It's just what I would do naturally.
Well, like I said earlier, if it's working for you, you should stay with it. Absolutely. And there are different ways of making money. There are more ways of losing money.
Yes. And it's also, we both agree that being disciplined and following your rules, which is, so I have a target price and I generally sell. Sometimes I violate my own rules. I lack the discipline that I'm just talking about, in that, I will hold on to something beyond the target price, but most of the time I take the target price. And sometimes what I do is I take some off the table, so usually to match my initial investment.
Rules are made for fools to follow and for wise people to use as guidelines. So that's what you're doing. You have a set of rules which you always follow. You're being wise about it. You know when to stray from the rules.
Yeah, and the idea of and Sasha and I have talked about this before, you play in with house money. If you take enough off the table to cover your initial investment, then it's all gravy. And if it goes up, great. If it goes down, you broke even anyways. At the worst case scenarios, you break even. So, but you're not often in that situation. So normally what I'm doing is saying, okay, I'm going to make X percentage on this particular stock. And so I track it, and it takes no time at all. You have an app for it, as we all do, to look at it, and you see it's green or red. And and then you look at, like, for example, I've just been looking at the last 3 months on all the stocks that I follow. It takes no time at all to do that. So the investment of time for me is not that significant, but it's also the time that I've invested in paying attention to what's going on in society. I'm going to do that anyways. So,
right.
And so for me, the investment in society, what's going on in society now is that we have an explosion in the artificial intelligence industry. The semiconductor stocks that support that are the companies that I've been focusing on, because that's not going to change overnight. That's not going to be redirected, and it's going to be largely unaffected by tariffs. Although there was definitely some, I had invested in Taiwan Semiconductors for a while, and then because of the geopolitical atmosphere, I thought, oh, maybe that's a little too risky for me, and so I had got out of that.
Well,
and I don't stock it anymore, so I'm not sure if it was a good decision or not. But I did make enough money on it to warrant my initial investment.
Very few things come without unintended consequences. Artificial intelligence, for example, is wonderful in many, many ways. Say in medicine, for instance, diagnosis is wrong much of the time. If the artificial intelligence is involved in the diagnosis, it's pretty well right all the time, and that is important. So, but you know that many people are losing jobs because of artificial intelligence. People who writers, for example. You know, I have my daughter and son-in-law both in film, and the artificial intelligence is really worrisome in that industry.
My last book, someone asked me how much of it was you and how much was AI, and I was initially offended, and then I realized, oh, wait a minute, you know, when I'm typing a paragraph, I'm having a spell check and a grammar check. What's that? That's, you know, that's not my writing skills so much as I'm being auto-corrected all the time. So it can help you write, but it can also, as you say, cost people jobs. So this is something that we're playing out in real time. No one knows the ultimate result, whether it'll be a boon or a.
That's why we need a guaranteed annual income, which has worked in a number of jurisdictions. I've been asked recently to write an article for a music magazine. You know, I play the violin, so I ask AI to write the article, and then I modify it to make it a Milan article rather than an AI article, and it works very well. So. Yeah,
but when I was in school, I had an Encyclopedia Britannica, and I would take that article on the subject that they wanted me to write about, and I would make it my own. Right, but exactly. It's just like any other resource, you know. I used to have encyclopedias, a dictionary, and a globe, and I don't need any of those things now.
Wikipedia is done away with Encyclopedia Britannica.
And it's so much easier to search, and you know. Yeah. So, you know, it's a different time, and we have to adapt the best we can. And
never been a better time to be alive than today.
Thank you for saying that. It's a good reminder.
Nor to live in a place like Canada. I don't want to hurt your feelings. There are many places in the United States where I would happily live. Utah would be a great example of that, as would be Vermont, for example. But there are many places in the United States I wouldn't want to live. But that might be true of Canada too. Although, you know, there are agencies which rank cities for livability, and of the top 10, 4 are Canadian. The best cities for livability, based on crime rates and the number of physicians per person and a whole lot of things, level of education, and so on.
I guess Vancouver is one of them.
It is, yeah. And of the top 10, 4 are Canadian. You know how many are American?
No.
0. Not one.
Yeah. Well, you know, I also was looking at the real estate. You know, real estate has been a problem because prices are so high and there's not that much inventory. And the 3 cities that people were moving to, I think, were Denver, Austin, and Miami. And that's reversed now. It's getting, they got, I think, overpriced or too crowded. So the inventory and the prices have gone up, and so that has stopped as well. and it is going in the opposite direction, I believe, if I read the article correctly.
What's going to happen to Miami and what's going to happen to New York City when sea levels rise 2 inches?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's going to happen with the ice caps melting. The water levels will rise. And I don't know how New York's going to deal with it, or Miami either.
Yeah,
So-
it's that is one of the things that it would take a global world effort to try to change. And we're so far short of that right now. We're still involved in territorial wars, which is nonsensical in this day and age. Sasha does a show about Ukraine and what's going on in Gaza right now. This is a humanitarian crisis. And it's time, we're in a global economy, although Trump is putting a little monkey wrench into the global economy. But we're far from a global community.
What we should all know, and I don't think that we do, is that climate change, one of the great risks today, I mean, there's a small number of things that could wipe out the next generation. One is atomic warfare, of course. Another one is artificial intelligence. Climate change is another one. And there has been climate change long before Homo sapiens was around.
Of course.
And to what extent are we responsible for the climate change that's taking place today? Because that's the only one that we can adjust and modify and influence.
If you look at the facts objectively, the rapidity of the climate change is unprecedented.
Is that right? Yeah.
So the man-made forces at work have affected it because the climate changes in the past were far more gradual.
Yeah, is that right? Yeah. So that means we should be able to do something about it.
Well, absolutely, if we had the collective will.
Well, drive electric cars, for example. That would be a good example.
Yeah, although I'm sorry that I bought a Tesla.
You're sorry?
It's a great car, don't get me wrong. I just the owner of the company
Exactly.
stuck his thumb in my eye.
I've been driving a Tesla for over 8 years now. And when I go to recharge, I always talk to other Tesla owners, and they all say it's the best car they ever owned, but they wouldn't buy another one.
Well, this is a picture of Norway behind me. And in Norway, 96% of the vehicles are electric. But I didn't see too many Teslas.
The biggest percentage of automobiles that are electric are, would you believe, in Nepal. Nepal has a higher percentage of electric vehicles than any country, including Norway, just because they have a lot of water, so they have a lot of energy that they can generate electricity.
Same with Norway, right? It's hydropower, yeah.
And very little corruption, because I think...
But we can play games with percentages too, because if there's only 100 cars in Nepal.
That's true, yeah.
Sorry, I don't know how many cars there are in Nepal.
Nobody knows, nobody counted. And in any case, thank you very much for today's program. I think we covered a lot of grounds. And we'll see you next week, same place, same time. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Goodbye.
Great to be here.